Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Well, here it is, folks. We're getting pretty close to calling this whole thing a wrap. Another Democrat falls in a high-profile race. Friends, it seems as though John Fetterman's campaign is officially over. It's an unfortunate situation, especially for John Fetterman's parents, who are going to have to foot the bill as he moves back in, and they're stuck paying his living expenses once again. But in the end, it is what it is. Another far leftist hack bites the dust, falls, campaign collapsed. John Fetterman is done. It's official. After months of John enjoying a 5 to 12 point lead over Dr. Oz in nearly every single poll, a couple months ago, Dr. Oz couldn't even get above 40% support. After months of the polls showing that John Fetterman was the future of the Democrat Party, as ridiculous as that sounds, this race has completely turned around as Dr. Oz surges in the polls, and John Fetterman continues to suffer from campaign blunder after blunder, and the most recent Insider Advantage poll shows a tie between the two candidates. Folks, if Dr. Oz was trailing by 3 to 5 points in most of the polling data, he still stands a chance. If Dr. Oz is tied, or is possibly even over the next couple of weeks, beating John Fetterman in the polls, well then it's over. It's absolutely done for John Fetterman, and it seems as though we have reached that point. The Republican surge is upon us, the Dr. Oz surge is definitely upon us, and that of course is what we're talking about. I gotta keep you guys updated on everything new in the most high-profile races. We've got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright friends, so this graph over here pretty much tells the whole story visually. John Fetterman has been dominating the polls for basically 6 months at this point. That lead has continued to shrink, John Fetterman continues to tank, and Dr. Oz continues to surge. Well, for the first time after months of polling data, this race is no longer in Fetterman's hands. Insider Advantage / Fox 29 poll, Fetterman-Oz neck and neck as Shapiro's lead over Mastriano narrows. As election day nears, a new Insider Advantage / Fox 29 poll shows Republican nominee Dr. Mehmet Oz has gained ground on Democratic nominee John Fetterman in the Pennsylvania U.S. Senate race. The race is now a dead heat. According to the poll of 550 likely voters conducted 3 weeks before Election Day on November 8th, the poll has a margin of error of 4.2%. Fetterman and Oz are now tied in the polling at 46% apiece, with 5% of those polls remaining undecided. Libertarian candidate Eric Gerhardt came in at about 2%. And once again, folks, our theory is confirmed. Not only did we predict that the Libertarian or the third-party candidate would continue to drop the closer we get to Election Day, we've seen that the Libertarian candidate could get anywhere from 4 to 5% in a couple polls. Well, we predicted that the closer we get to Election Day, the more we would see that drop. Now, this poll is suggesting that the Libertarian candidate's going to get about 2%, and it's possible that that goes even to 1%. And we've also been predicting that undecided voters are going to continue to split for Dr. Oz. I mean, let's be real here, Dr. Oz has had some image problems, even within the Republican Party. When he first announced his candidacy, he was largely viewed as a possible neocon politician that didn't exactly fit the mold of this new Republican movement, this new conservative grassroots movement. But with time, of course, that situation has gotten much better, and a lot of people are coming over to the Dr. Oz camp, especially considering whether you like Dr. Oz or not, or whether you think he's the strongest conservative, doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, the point is, you gotta stop far-left radical John Fetterman from getting his mitts on political power, and of course, probably even more serious beyond that, stopping the Democrat establishment as a whole from gaining control over the Senate. The closer we get to Election Day, the more real things seem. The more Mehmet Oz is expected to surge in the polls. And now Insider Advantage, which is one of the most accurate pollsters out there, is suggesting a clear tie. In fact, if you take a look at all of the polls here, every single one except for USA Today, which is a garbage polling firm, these are all some of the most accurate pollsters out there. Emerson, Trafalgar, Fabrizio / Anzalone, and Insider Advantage. All of them over the last month or so, essentially showing the race within the statistical margin of error, and also over the last couple of months, slowly trending in Dr. Oz's favor. And my prediction here is that this is going to be a continued trend. The ball is currently in Dr. Oz's court, and he's painting a very clear contrast between weak John Fetterman and himself. The fact is that John Fetterman is not healthy, and his campaign is prioritizing weird issues that have nothing to do with people's priorities. Things like woke criminal justice reform and other nonsense. But Dr. Oz, on the other end, is tackling inflation. It started off with the whole crudité video, which of course was kinda cringe, a little bit novice, but in the end I have to give it to him. He's cleaned up and he's packaging a very coherent message, a clear solution in his response to the #1 issue on the ballot, inflation.
There's no question why this race is now neck and neck. I focused on the issues you mentioned, especially the economy, crime, and the border with drugs.
Gas.
Right? Well, gas is part of, to me, the economy, because if you really want to drop inflation, and it's a much less painful way than raising interest rates, allow natural gas to be unleashed in Pennsylvania. Tom Cotton was coming out. Tom Cotton and I were on wellheads just to look at this, but when you say that fracking is a stain on Pennsylvania, which John Fetterman did, and you showed videos of him saying what he actually believes, that's insulting to people who are making their living in that area. It actually destroys communities, and we drive up inflation because energy drives 1/3 of the total inflation that we see.
And this right here, folks, this has to be the message. You know, when it comes to inflation, you hear all kinds of things. Democrats tell you the answer to inflation caused by stimulus is more stimulus. You'll hear some more conservative-leaning people tell you that the answer to inflation is lower taxes. Both of these proposed solutions are incorrect. While I believe that lowering taxes in the long run is a good thing, the idea that you should lower taxes in an inflationary environment based on basic fundamental economic understanding is just a bad idea, because both of these things stimulate the economy. They give people more money to spend when the problem is right now that supply can't keep up, i.e. increased prices, higher inflation. We're seeing that whole fiasco play out in the UK right now with failed former Prime Minister Liz Truss. The only answer to inflation as of right now is production. Produce more oil, make energy cheaper, produce more products. Honestly, if you're going to reduce taxes on corporations and people building and producing things. That's how you tackle inflation, which is the opposite of what Joe Biden is doing with his increase to the corporate tax rate. Maybe when things are stable down the line, sure, reduce taxes, but right now that's not the solution. The solution is to produce, to tackle the supply issue. All the supply bottlenecks from all the lockdowns and all the nonsense is one of the most important driving factors to the inflation that we're seeing. It's not just Putin's war in Ukraine. And of course, attacking domestic energy production is a big factor as well. Well, Dr. Oz has seemed to figure this one out. It seems like he's a pretty smart guy, and he's one of the only candidates on the ballot who's got a clear answer to the number one issue facing American voters right now. Dr. Oz is right. And the more people listen and the more people are exposed to this idea and Dr. Oz's ideas, well, the more clear that contrast is going to be between Dr. Oz and John Fetterman. And that, I think, is what's happening right now, folks. It's just the juxtaposition between the two, the contrast between these two candidates. One is a risk who's clearly unhealthy, has spent most of his life being an irresponsible bum, and the other seems to be a sharp, successful man with his values in the right place. The closer you get to election day, the more real this decision becomes. It's irresponsible Democrat slob versus competent, successful surgeon man, and in the end, when it gets real, when push comes to shove, my prediction, Dr. Oz is going to take this one, and I don't even think it's really going to be that close. We now see a tie between the two candidates. That's a 10-point gap that's just closed, and I think this trend is going to continue. Keep coping, leftoids. It's not looking good for you. That's what I got for you guys, though. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel. I'm going to get back to work. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.